Few debates feel as immediate as this one: trans athletes in sports. It's usually framed as a question of fairness, and at first, that sounds straightforward. But the reasoning behind that claim is more complex than it appears. Because once you slow the argument down, it depends on a few key assumptions that most people never stop to examine. The argument works because it starts with something real. Fairness matters in sports. Competition is structured around it. So when something is framed as a threat to fairness, it seems serious, reasonable, even necessary. But that's just the starting point. The claim is usually including trans women creates an unfair advantage. And from that, the conclusion is they should be excluded from certain competitions. But to reach that conclusion, a few assumptions have to be true. Here's the structure. Inclusion leads to unfair advantage, leads to loss of fairness, leads to exclusion. That's the chain. The first assumption is that all trans athletes have the same advantage, but that treats a diverse group as if it is uniform. In logic, that's an overgeneralization, because individual variation gets replaced with a broad claim. The second assumption is about scale, that inclusion will lead to widespread dominance, that it won't stay limited, but will expand into a larger problem. That's a slippery slope. It assumes a chain of outcomes without showing that each step will actually occur. So the argument takes a concern about fairness and builds it into a much larger conclusion. But between those 2 points, there are assumptions that need to be examined, not just felt. This doesn't mean fairness should not matter. It should. But evaluating fairness means looking at actual outcomes, actual data, specific contexts, not just broad assumptions about an entire group. Because when arguments move from concern to conclusion without examining the steps in between, they can feel convincing without being fully supported. And once you start noticing that, the debate is more complex than it first appears.